If you're like me, you try to find every hack for productivity, follow every tip, craft the perfect routine. It all started for some greater purpose, a big aspiration you had, maybe. For me, it was an artistic aspiration. I want to be a singer and an actress professionally. But instead of focusing on that work, taking my time and going in as much depth as possible, I'd fill my day with performative acts of productivity under the guise of being devoted to my craft. In reality, it was just distraction. And in order to see that, it took me being stuck at home off my feet for 2 months. This is Pointing to the Moon, reflections on the process of building an artistic career with well-being in mind. I'm Catherine. I'm an actress, singer, and writer working to build a career. I'm not here to add to the noise or feed you promises. This is a place of peace, reflection, and taking pride in the process. I had a surgery on my foot about 2 months ago now. The conditions of recovery were wearing a boot the whole time, no driving, no weight on the toes, and no water. That's pretty much it. But the bigger list was everything it rolled out. Dancing, gym, driving, specifically driving to LA for classes, workshops, auditions, shoots, doing shoots in general. Even doing self-tapes was out because I had no guarantee as to when I'd be back to my full mobility. And, of course, during summer, swimming. Now, all this terrified me from the get-go. I was totally committed to the surgery because the condition was limiting the kinds of work I could do, not to mention severely impacting my confidence. But I was still terrified. I remember as they started to put me under, the terror of the loss of control, the realization that this down the rabbit hole feeling was only the start of my loss of autonomy. Now, I don't mean to over-dramatize here. I'm aware of the amount of people living with actual disabilities, both visible and invisible, that touch every aspect of their lives every day for their whole lives. This was nothing, but this is purely my reflection of how derailing it felt to my false sense of control over my life. And it was just that, a false sense of control. I'd invented relentless, arbitrary rules and schedules to give me the illusion of being on the right track, in a career path known for irregularity, stagnancy, and lack of direction. I'll admit, these things in and of themselves were often helpful to my growth as an artist. The rigidity was not. The lack of spontaneity was not. It was keeping me from exploring and flowing, being in tune and receptive as artists must be in any medium. It kept me tuned in only to myself and my own presentation instead of being on the pulse. And where has it gotten me? I have music I'm sitting on waiting to come out, but I couldn't even bring myself to promote it. It all felt too corny, too desperate, taking myself too seriously and somehow not seriously enough. I had yet to connect with an agent that had my back, but struggled to make any genuine connections, with anyone for that matter, because I was so absorbed in routine and my own output that I wasn't cultivating my inner world. So I get home from the hospital. For the first week or so, I'm completely drugged up, and I'm so incredibly lucky. I had an amazing support system, my family taking care of me, friends and boyfriend visiting and bringing treats. But there was lots of downtime, more than I've had since I was a kid. Side note, I actually have a song called Downtime that's still waiting for a project to be released with, about resenting how it feels like everyone's always resting while I'm always at work on myself and still not outperforming anyone. So I guess I had this realization a while ago before I fully internalized it. Now, a major difference between the downtime here and when I was a kid is that I'm 25, so when I was a kid and I had downtime, I would play with toys, play outside, stare at a wall if I had to, do something creative. Today, there's always TV, phone, laptop. I can stay entertained all day. And originally, that's how it went. I spent several hours reading, but then when I got too disoriented, I'd go for screen time. And it was an inordinate amount of screen time. Before this, I didn't even know how to work our TV, but I was using it for the entire day for a bit there. But I'll be honest, I was extremely discontent with the feeling of being sedentary. Whenever I was left alone, I started doing ab workouts on the floor, which was not recommended from day one post-op. But the social media was the killer. Here I am, not able to leave the house, looking my absolute worst, and not able to make any progress towards my career. But I am able to watch snippets of everyone who is. Everyone who's thriving in their career was being pushed right into my face. And this is especially a sensitive topic when it comes to actresses because as much as I hate to admit my thoughts are so limiting sometimes, it starts to feel like I'm running out of time. I only have a few years left of being beautiful. Sometimes it feels like the older actresses are just 20-year-old Hollywood beauties who've aged into their later roles. They hooked Hollywood with talent and a pretty face and held on tighter than the others. I could feel this kind of toxicity oozing into my brain and negativity. So I decided that for at least a week or so of this break, I was going to actually take a break, for real, and slow down. Instead of my endless to-do list of habits for each day, I wrote out categories in a journal. 5 values most important to me for this time in my life. Instead of measuring my days in output, I meditated on adherence to and cultivation of these values. I believe the key to stop comparison of yourself to others is to truly know yourself and what you stand for. If you act in accordance with that, there's nothing to doubt. So, what did this change for me in practice? Slow mornings. I've always been a jump out of bed, get outside kind of person, but I started waking up, journaling or meditating, depending how I felt, maybe stretching, maybe reading in bed even for a while. Later in the day, laying out by the pool for hours. Once I could stand for a little, cooking new recipes, not just the streamlined, on-the-go gym meals. Eating slowly, no distractions. Doing idle things I love again, like puzzles, crosswords. People came over for the 4th and I let myself play. We played a board game even. And all of this, it seems so small, but it woke up something in me. Like the electric part that I thought I'd lost. The true energy. Not the steam engine feeling of pummeling through regardless of how I felt, but like a flowing, almost tidal energy. For the first time in my life, I wrote a full-length play. Something that felt actually new and creative to me. I wasn't chugging along trying to do something productive. I was just grabbed by the story in my head and it needed to come out. And it came out more quickly than I would have imagined. Nothing about it felt laborious. Not only that, suddenly song fragments I left unfinished had new life in them. Possibilities opened up. Things that had felt stale had life breathed back into them. It was incredible. I felt ready to reveal myself to the world despite feeling unfinished as an artist. Imperfect. I became active on social media again to prepare for a release, and I decided to make a podcast. So my 2 months are coming to an end, but here's what I plan to take forward with me. Values over output, presence in every moment, breathing life in, tuning into everything outside of yourself, slowing down, patience. Before going into this next week, take a moment to reflect on which 5 values you'd like to bring with you going forward. I'll be naming each episode after a new value, so there'll be more inspiration to come.